Sounds like a very big one. Okay. So people with reduced mobility are ideally people who have trouble commuting. So that is your person with disability, an elderly person, a sickly person, your child who also can't take themselves to school, whether in primary school uh, or even high school, because they still need support commuting. So that's the person with reduced mobility. And that's what we as Ace Mobility then do. We come in and offer transport solutions for people with reduced mobility. Okay, quick one. How easy was it for you to get to this particular venue? It was just like this, getting to a matatu, or rather, if you can afford it, then just call in an Uber or drive, right? So what about if you had reduced mobility then? What do you do? You call someone, you call in a favor. So you've just been told that today at 9 a.m. you're needed to attend this particular conference. How many people do you then call? How many people do you then call and ask favors from so that you then get transport to come here? I'm saying all these stories as you're waiting for the presentation to come in. So again, it takes a lot of time for people with reduced mobilities to actually just get a transport solution to serve them. They would ideally call in 3 favors, and only one person would ideally give them 30 minutes of their time to drive them here. That is if they need like extra support. Or simple enough, they call in an Uber or Bolt for us or any other ride hailing app. But again, they will still need support coming into the second floor. Look at it this way. You've ordered your cab, you've gotten to the entrance of Sarit, but then you need to come into second floor. It becomes very, very difficult to actually do that if you have reduced mobility. That's why we are here as Ace Mobility, and that's what we do. We have a vehicle outside, the vehicle with the ramp behind. That's what we do. We've then created a transport solution for those people with reduced mobility. Thank you very much. So just watch this small video and then I'll continue from there. Hi, Brian. How are you? Where are you? I think Brian was also in the room. There he is at the far back. Our model right there was Brian. He is our head of communication, and he's actually a wheelchair user. So when I was 7 years old, 6 actually, my dad got into an accident, and he then started being a wheelchair user. From that day, it also then dawned on us that it's not easy for people with reduced mobility to get transport solution. In Kenya, we are looking at more than 7 million Kenyans with reduced mobilities. In Africa, we are looking at more than 200 million. They do not have this particular transport service for their needs, and that's where Ace Mobility comes from. This service is actually working. We've been in business for the past 3 years. We have revenues of now more than 400,000 USD. That's where you start if you want to go global. Next slide. Next slide. So we come in with different packages. I think most of us have seen the vehicle that is on my far left. Is a vehicle we still have outside. What we do is we allow wheelchair users to come into the vehicle when they are still seated on their wheelchairs. The vehicle in the middle also has ideally more or less the same capability. The only difference is someone is able to transfer from the assistive device, that is their wheelchair or crutch, onto this particular seat, and then the seat lifts them up into the vehicle, and that's how they get to commute. The vehicle comes in with different sizes. Those 2 vehicles sit in 5 people. This vehicle over here, which is a van, a matatu, seats 7 to 9 people, and we are now building a Land Cruiser to enable tourism for people with reduced mobility. Other than that, we are now also including mobility aids. What used to happen is people used to buy, but then if you have an injury that needs you to be on a wheelchair for 1 week, why then buy the mobility device? So we come in and list some of these products to you at very affordable rates, and that's how you're able to move from A to Z. And we give you all this with very friendly prices. Yeah, we also come in with more transport. So we are an inclusive transport provider. We have buses, vans, accessible vehicles, and all that, just to make sure that everyone's commute needs are met. But today here we are talking about accessible mobility, which is transport for people with reduced mobility. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, and as I've said, we're already in business. These are the companies that we've worked for. We've worked with the US Embassy, National Council, Disability, Bolt, Uber. We supply most of the people that you're seeing that have accessible transport. But then, today you have an opportunity to talk to us directly, and we could then get to offer you this service. We are not expensive. For 5,000 shillings ideally, it will give you 2 hospital transfers. That is, if you have a relative who just needs to be picked from the house to go to the hospital and back, we offer you the service at 5,000. An ambulance will cost you 12,000 shillings. See? If you're looking at your staff transport, ideally 5,000 shillings gets you 4 trips to work. So we are working with all these partners to make sure that people with reduced mobilities have are able to access education, they're able to access transport, they're able to access all these things that we then talk about. And together we'll make a country and a world that is inclusive for everyone, not just able people. Thank you very much for your time. Oh, any questions?
Thank you. A round of applause for Daniel. Dan, you made Brian look so posh in that photo that he ran away to hide himself because I think he was looking and I'm like, what? Is that me? Allow me to give a shout out to some of our sponsors: SUS Ads, Blue Collar, ICA Lion, Top Level Management, SME Founders Association, Powerland Project, Hope Media, Directors Referral Network, Robbie Search, and Icon Radio. I now would like to invite back on stage the one and only strategic manager, chief networker, storyteller, sharply dressed dude in the room, MD of Callistic, Patrick Kimani, to take us through our last panel, Creative Economy. How do we make money from our content?
Hello? Let me see by the show of hands. How many people were here in the morning when you were learning about networking? By the show of hands. Tulisema mkono ni yako. You just raise it like this. Wow. A lot of you missed. Let us appreciate those who have been here since morning. Now, my key challenge is this. This session was supposed to start at 3:30 p.m. It is now 4:12. Or is it 13? 4:12, right? And it was supposed to go for 1 hour, 30 minutes. That is up to 5 p.m. So, since we are in this together, are we in this together, ama niko peke yangu? We are in this together, right? I would like us to agree. Now, do we still take 90 minutes in this session, or you would like this session? So if we take 90 minutes, it goes up to around 6, right? Or would you like me to end this session at exactly 5? So I'll see by the show of hands. So how many people would like this session to end at exactly 5? Please raise up your hand. Be honest. Oh, there's no need to ask about the others. So I only have very few minutes. And the conversation is about digital storytelling and visibility for startup growth. And I have 4 panelists, and in the interest of time, I'll ask them to come all together. My panelists, please take your seats on stage so that we can have the conversation. Please appreciate them as they come. I have asked someone to signal me when the time is up so that...
Good. And And as they come on stage, we are now live on Icon Radio, courtesy of Myra. Myra, thank you very much. Thank you.
So let us appreciate them. Simmekula lunch. Yes, you can have your seats. And then, so in the interest of time again, so my panelists will introduce themselves as they, sorry, as they answer my questions, and then I'll give each one of you, those who have questions, an opportunity to ask. And we are supposed to be 6 of us. Unfortunately, Janet Machuka will not be able to join us for unavoidable reasons. And I'll start with Myra. Yes, you've given us an opportunity to be live. Now, your artistic development program leads creativity with financial literacy for young artists. How do you think such a hybrid program can shape the future of Africa's creative economy and empower the youth beyond artistic skills?
All right. Well, thank you for starting off with me. I was hoping we could have a little bit of a backstory based on our profiles. I don't know if we're still able to go about with that, because with artistic development, it is a merger between ourselves and if you look at our booth, we this year in January merged with called AFTI Training Institute. And this is because we have the know-how, we have the skills based on the people that we have within our station. We're not just a station, your usual station. We are invested, especially in the group called the Gen Zs. They're the ones who have really built our not only following, but also the creative aspects of our station. They have dynamic ways of thinking, dynamic ways of operating. They're changing their narrative, and therefore we have found the need to invest in them more than just giving them edutainment through our space. And that is why we also got into the merger with AFTI Training Institute. So artists, people who are commonly known, especially amongst the millennials and up, wasani. It has always been coined in a more not very flattering way, even as we grew up. And again, the narrative has changed. So for Wasani now, we are empowering them, not only by giving them the skills and going through a rigorous program where they not only know how to gain the skills, but also learn how to monetize their art, their work. And that is done through not only the trainers we have, both with the station and the school, but we also get different stakeholders to partner with. We are big, huge on collaboration, because the pot is not only big for us who are at the top, but it's also big for those who are coming up. So with these collaborative efforts, we've been able to come up with a strong program. We're also working with institutions who are trying to get into the creative economy to come up with ways that they're able to strengthen the programs for the people who come through our stations. I don't know if I've completely answered your question, but yes, we are looking at how to best monetize artists at this time.
Oh, wonderful. That is really good. Let us appreciate her. And now, if you don't clap, anyway, I would like Alex, who is just sitting next to me, to build up on what Myra has talked about. She's offering training and she's helping the artists to monetize their skills. However, most of us here are in business, and we have teams in our workforce. Now, Alex, given your hands-on training, and capacity building, how can startups or entrepreneurs who are in this place and they have teams, how can they integrate digital upskilling into their core operations to remain more competitive and scalable?
Okay. Thank you, Patrick, and thanks to the audience for joining us. And I think building up on upskilling, my name is Alex. I've had the background of being able to be a digital trainer for SMEs for a long time, implementing different programs and hands-on supporting businesses. I run an agency that does that. So the SME game, we understand that for a business, digital is important, upskilling is important, and knowing those skills. So my point of view is digital upskilling is a critical thing for a business, and by upskilling, I mean it could be the skills of today. So a lot of businesses come to us and ask, okay, we want to create content, we want to manage our posts, we want to run ads, but upskilling means what are the core competencies every team member should have in your business, like even understanding customer service. So sometimes a business could do so well, maybe they summit, advertise it so well, but maybe the back-end team that's doing customer service is not as savvy as in doing that skill. They don't know the average response time, which is now expected to be 7 minutes in a digital age. They don't know have you ever asked a business, okay, I've seen your product, how much? And then they just go ahead to write a figure it's 800 bob. They don't even thank you for your inquiry because you're an interested customer maybe. They just go straight up, tell you, and blue tick you if you don't say you want to buy. So digital upskilling means how are we able to build the capacity and skill sets of our team members in different capacities so that our business can serve as efficiently as possible. Are you able to train them to understand part of the team maybe is doing customer service, how is customer service meant to be done? And there are many different ways of upskilling, from buying courses online, and a lot of platforms even here locally, a lot of training partners. I know Wild, and I've heard some of the businesses that are here. I'm sure even Eugene has run a few courses on upskilling teams, and in this economy, people are doing it really affordably. You join a webinar for 1,000 bob, somebody trains your team on doing something that can help them improve your business efficiency. So I believe the purpose of upskilling is very important, and building that learning culture in your business. When startups embed that digital literacy in your operations, you're more likely to be agile, efficient, and self-sustaining, becoming a bit more competitive and being able to run a brand that customers are like, wow, I love the way they work with us. I like they're versatile. They respond to our WhatsApp queries and things like that. I have a small quote that I've written down because I knew the digital upskilling question always comes. And mine is I heard it's a quote by Alvin Toffler who says, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn and relearn. So if you hear AI and you keep ignoring how can we serve our customers through AI, you're becoming soon the illiterate of the 21st century.
Wonderful. Let us appreciate him. And in the same spirit of upskilling, let me see, how many people of us has paid for a course or a learning opportunity for you? Oh, mikono imebaki kidogo. Now, for those who didn't raise up your hand, please, because you run businesses and you have teams, how many of you have paid courses for your team or a learning opportunity this year, 2025? Joram, hadi wewe? You're thinking about it. Let us appreciate those who have provided opportunities to learn for their teams. And in the same spirit, we are living in an era where most or the majority of the workforce, especially for SMEs and small businesses, are Gen Z. And people are saying they are hopping from one organization to the other. Immediately they finish the course you paid for them, they go to the next organization. And Wangeshi, you consult with a lot of SMEs and startups, and you do a lot of advisory and policy work. Now, there is, of course, a lot of risks that are involved in this. You spent a lot of money, which essentially you took from your tight budget and you paid for programs for your team to learn. And it is very important, like what Alex has mentioned. But at the same time, you want to do it for your organization to be competitive. but you have the risk of immediately they finish learning, they go and utilize that skill in another organization. How can organizations safeguard themselves from these risks? And at the same time, how can organizations build strong foundations on protecting themselves from day one or from the level in which they are today?
All right. So maybe I can start with the background. My name is Wangeshwa Home. I am a lawyer by profession, although interestingly enough, that's not what I'm well known for in this ecosystem. I support and build innovators and startup. I run an organization called Anza Village, and we are big on supporting innovators. This month particularly, and I was telling you, Kimani, is of interest because it's World IP Day and the World IP Month focus on the creatives. And we haven't had an opportunity where globally innovation focuses on the creative economy. And there's never been such an important time as a time like this when we're even discussing digital nomads and the likes. I do a lot of work around the legal and regulatory space, and just particularly to respond to your question, um, we talk about HR career progression as an important aspect. In fact, I think I spent the better part of the COVID era sitting with SCAC, SRC, at that point in time was doing policy work at the national level, and we redefined HR instruments across more than, I think, 30 parastatals. And one of the things that was key, and I think I was the youngest person and the only private sector lawyer in that task force. And one of the key things that came in is, of course, upskilling people is important. Career progression and career training and continuous professional development is key. From where I come from, especially from a legal point of view, you're required at any given point in time before the end of the year, you've complied, you've done a couple of courses that run up your license for you to get a valid license to practice the next year. And I think a lot of professional areas do fall under that. So I find that the employers who do employ people within that space, they understand that there's an expectation. But then with that expectation comes cost. Now, here's the catch-22. Of course, with a license, getting a license for me to practice law is going to cost my employer around 20,000. Some employers choose not to pay so that it becomes the employee's responsibility to pay. But others will choose to pay because they feel the need to do that. But what I've seen is there are two ways to it. Is at the point you're hiring, what kind of person are you hiring? Because at any given point in time, you may decide to hire somebody and take a long time to train, and especially at intern level. But then you also understand that with that point comes the salary expectations are not high. So you're going to spend some time investing, but you have to be able to select very good people, take them through a good probation period, 2-3 months probation period, and then maybe after the probation period, you open them up for more professional training. Of course, the initial training is internal. So the first investment I always say is you have to have your own internal training capacity where somebody internally can train people coming in. And then now, having passed that, is you need to be able to ascertain how far and how long are these people likely to stay in your organization. The more likely and the more you can see and grow, the more you can invest in them. But there's no sure bet, because in any case, the contract you're doing with your employees, they will still give you, depending on what levels, 30 days notice, 60 days notice, 90-day notice. I think the last contract I held as a partner was a 90-day notice. That's the longest I had to pay. I had to. And that's because it takes a lot for them to invest. But then at that point in time, when they're investing in paying for certain things, then they understand that my investment in the company is much more than even their investment in going to go and pay for this. So I think one of the biggest things I always say is there's no, if anything, the employment laws will protect the employee. They will rarely protect the employer. They will always protect the employee in case of anything. So you have to be willing to be the person who builds. But then for me, it's always hiring. Hiring, right? It's making sure that you have clear agreements, but making sure that you can also hire people that you see a long-term. I have a rule nowadays. And by the way, I'm a victim. There was a period where I was hiring and training and people leaving, and then you hire again and you train and people leave, and there's nothing you can do about it until you start realizing that you need to hire somebody. Nowadays, I have a rule. If you cannot hire me, I will not hire you. Meaning, if I cannot see you as a successor in a role within the company, then that's a problem. If somebody comes and is obviously jumping the previous job they were there for 6 months, previously they were there for another 6 months, chances are no matter how much they promise you, they might also easily leave you, right? So for me, in terms of proofing, it's you have to do it in bits. Don't come in and fully commit, I'm going to pay 1 million. Now, when the investment becomes higher, where then you're now required to pay, let's say for a master's program and all that, give that as a loan. You can either give that as a loan. If there is really need for them to do it as a scholarship, you can do it like let them pay it forward, such that just the same way we do vesting over 3-year, 4-year period, then you can do that. But in most cases, I worked in a company in Safaricom, and at that point in time, for training over a certain value of money, and especially for masters and all that, you'd get it as a company investing in you as a loan. So if you have to leave the company within this period, then you have to commit to the fact that you'll pay back that money. Then if you go on to stay for this longer period, then it's fine, that's full scholarship. But if it's small training, webinar, 1,000, 5,000, I think that is something that you can give it in good faith, and hopefully you hire right.
Oh, well answered. Give it in good faith and hire right. Let's appreciate Wangeshi for that. Now,
if I could just add, there's just one quote that I've ever heard that scared me more than anything. Is they say, Sawa, you hired them, you don't want to train them, or you don't want to pay for them to be trained. What if you don't train them and they stay? So you refuse to pay to train them. Well, look, it's okay. Now they've stayed. They are worse. They're not even developing or growing, and now they're staying in your company. What will that lead to?
I do get you. And I think that is a question that those who are hesitant to upskilling their teams can ask themselves and provide a really good answer that can inform what they're going to do. Now, Barasa, I'm sure you have found yourself in this situation. Joram has written a very nice piece about building a business. He writes black and white truth about running a business. I always have been reading them like forever. And you are just reading, and 5 minutes later, you find yourself on a website reading probably about pregnancy or malaria or something else. Have you ever found yourself in such a situation? You went to read a particular article, and then 10 minutes later, you're reading totally unrelated thing, and you have scrolled, you have read so many other articles, you've watched a video along the way, you have seen a meme, and you've shared. Have you had that experience? I have had it. Can you raise up your hand if you found yourself in that situation? Unless if you're lying. Anyway, you have positioned yourself over the last couple of years, and you have positioned storytelling as a bridge to meaningful business relationships. However, the attention plan of most of us, like you have seen, is diminishing. And we have, I'm sure you have heard more than 3 times in this forum and in the sub-event on the other side, we are told create content, create content, create content. I'm sure those who are in business, they are either creating content or planning to create content, right? But now, how do you ensure that when you're creating this content for your organization, it is content that cuts through the noise, and it is content that no matter the distraction that will come by, somebody will continue to watch or to read until the end, and that way you are able to create lasting connections and following for your brand.
Thank you, Kimani, for that. That is a mouthful of a question. It's actually $1 million question because most of us are thinking about how to stand out. And for those of you who are on YouTube for inspiration, you must have come across someone who usually advocates for content and usually says, stop selling, start creating. Have you ever come across that phrase? Stop selling, start creating. Before I tackle that question, I'll introduce myself. My name is Kipkemei Barasa. I lead a team at Storyboard Media. Storyboard Media is a video solutions company. We do long form, short form documentaries. We help organizations tell their story and majorly through audiovisuals. So to answer you, I don't know where to start, but I'll say authenticity is one of the key things that are missing on the digital spaces. I think we are talking about digital spaces, Peter. This is specific to digital spaces because there are so many other platforms you can, this is one forum that people are engaging with each other. But in context, we are talking about digital spaces, right? So in digital spaces, I would say authenticity is one of the things which is lacking. And since this is a startups forum, I would say as a startup, the things that you do, the idea that you have, is a story of its own. The idea that you have is a story. There is a story behind the idea that you have. There is a story behind your solution or the product that you've created and you want to sell to the market. There is a place you've come from. It could be your training in school. It could be an experience. The last speaker here spoke of a parent who got into an accident and therefore he is in the service of developing solutions in assisting people with, I'm missing the word, least mobility? Yes, so there is a place you've come from as a business person. And that place that you've come from forms part of your story as a business person. So for you to stand out, I would answer you directly. For you to stand out, you can quickly leverage on storytelling on digital spaces by either creating videos, creating posters, or writing articles regarding the story of where you've come from as a person and where your product is headed to.
Wow, thank you so much. Let us appreciate Barasa. And now I want to share the remaining minutes with you to only two people that have a question. One person here, another person. Yes, and there is a gentleman behind the camera. So this is what you'll do. You'll tell us your name and what you do in 30 seconds, and then your question, just one question, and direct it to a specific person so that we can wind down.
Thank you. I am Eugene Bahatina Biswa from K's Wellness Center. All the diseases that have been troubling you can be a thing of the past. Visitors, please. My question is directed to, but let's flip the script. What if the employee is self-driven in skilling and takes initiative, free courses or even paid ones? How does one negotiate, say, higher remuneration or whatever? Thank you.
Wonderful. We have, let me take him the mic. Oh, unfortunately, he didn't raise his hand. Anyone with a question? Yes.
Hello, my name is Stella. Recently at Art Cafe and presently working on a music project where I hope to export Kenyan musicians. ... I'm figuring that out. But what I was hoping our panelists could talk about would be monetization. I think from like influencers that we follow and content creators that we know about, we get to imagine that they're getting money from brand sponsorships and collabos. However, I think there's room for more insights. We talked about upskilling, we talked about all the other digital stuff and how to put your story forward. Now that you have this authentic mission, authentic story, as he mentioned, what next? So you found people who can respond to it, then how do you make a living from it? It's not just about money, but it's a livelihood. I think I'd be interested on or in that. Thank you.
I think that question goes to Myra. You're the one who said you actively helping people to manage, to monetize their skills. So we have Myra and Wangeshi respond. We can start with Wangeshi.
Yeah. So I think for me, you've asked a very good question on what happens when employees choose to self grow themselves. And I think for me, that has always been the best case scenario. I'll give a good example. I started a career more than a decade ago in Safaricom. I was an intern who whose passion was purely on law and human rights in their lives. How I found myself in tech is because I found myself in an organization with tech jargons that I couldn't understand, and I had to learn. And then I went on. There was a course that Vodafone globally was offering, and at that point in time, a select few of us were going, and I chose to do it. It was on contract and commercial management. We ended up being only 9 certified contract and commercial managers. Before I was even a graduate, I was still in uni working. Fast forward, that my capacity and my specialization around low tech and all that allowed me sit at the head leading the research team on the presidential election petitions 2017, petition number 2, not 1, on ICT and numbers. And that's because they needed a lawyer who understood tech and law. Now, if I had not done anything, I wouldn't have found myself in that space. By the time I left, of course, I found myself in private practice. Fast forward to 2022, and I am now interested in matters law, startups, and tech. And I've built a known private practice within the law firm I'm in. And I had a choice to either go back to Safaricom or negotiate something. And I had to negotiate and became a partner. For me, it's something that sets me apart. It's not just about me and the careers and the offices that I've been in. It is me and every other lawyer in the ecosystem, knowing I can have conversations about law, I can have conversations about IP, data, tech, and all that. It is individual. So what that did for me is help the organization. Because by the way, as a result, the law firm became the first co-founder of Answer Village, and the law firm is benefiting at a global level because they chose to let me negotiate based on what I did. Personally, I grew. I think if you have an opportunity to grow, you cannot wait for your employer to come in and offer and pay for you. You have to do it and then come in and show why is this of value. In a world with AI, for instance, what are you doing within your space? I know everybody's talking about AI, but then what's next? Before that, we were talking about data. Before that, data as data analytics. Then there was data privacy and all that. We talked about crypto and all that. As in, life keeps changing, and at any given point in time, if you cannot see yourself, and you remember it talks about career progression. So that career progression has to be individual. Where do you see your journey? It's not where do you see yourself now. Where do you see yourself in the next 5, 10 years as the world is growing? And if you're not growing in it, you're waiting for your employer, then you become a dinosaur like any other person. And then what happens is, if there's an opportunity to hire, and an outsider comes in, then the employer will hire that outsider who had either grown themselves or otherwise. But allow me, before Myra responds, and just because we did something on monetization, last Friday, and I hope that answers you. So last Friday, we held something called Create IP and Creative Economy Summit, and it was geared towards having real conversations about what artists are doing, what the creatives are doing, and how they're making money. And I've been on the creatives journey in terms of supporting them get funding from as early as Skiza Tune days in my Safaricom days till now. But of that room, in that room we had, I don't know how many of you people remember Kalamashaka. Yeah? So if you go check out our social media pages right now, we hosted the team on Friday. and just having conversations with them on a couple of things that they lost out back in the days, including their biggest song that they lost because of, of certain agreements and all that. So even as we look at the different things, I want to just put a focus, especially for creatives. You lose a lot because of lack of two things. One is understanding your own intellectual property rights. Whether you have copyright, trademark, and the likes, you lose that. Second is lack of IP agreements or the creatives agreements. For instance, I'll ask in the room, if you're an artist, do you understand what split agreements are? Where if you're singing, then you know there's what the producer gets, there's what the artist gets, there's what the composer gets, and all that. Now, if you're in the podcast scene, now this podcast has come later. What's in it there? Because I expect the same with split agreements. Same with people creating content. Now, something I always challenge people. If you see a camera near you, and that camera is taking content, who owns the IP for that content? Who owns the IP? It's the camera person. Unless there's a however, that there's a clear agreement that stipulates that you who commissioned the cameraman, you've commissioned for work. Yeah? So you end up doing work where you're losing things because you're not negotiating right, and you're not negotiating right because you didn't have a simple thing. The third thing is we don't even do consent. You can't call somebody to come and appear on your podcast, on your song, and you didn't do that release sign. Now, how many of you remember Safaricom SIM cards that used to have the Masai man? Anyone remembers? And sorry, I use this because I spent so many of my years dealing with that every day, and they are public information, so no issue. But the reason why Safaricom had to pull that person out is because of the same things that we startups fail to do, and then they come catching up later, where somebody forgot to do a media release form. And then the person waited for when Safaricom is big and the SIM cards are big, and came in and said, yo guys, you owe me big. You've been using my face and everything, and no one compensated me. And by the way, at that point in time, it was a court case. We had to compensate the person. So for me, it's as simple as we are losing. There's so much we can negotiate financially, but I always say commercialization has to have come with protection. Protect with agreement, protect with understanding your IP, protect with knowing that I have somebody, even if you call me, even if you give me an area, say I have a clear 1 hour a month. Okay, don't call me 10 hours in a month. I have to do other things. But at the very least, I can give you 30 minutes to an hour free and tell you this one, get this agreement, sign an NDA, sign a release form, or sign an IP agreement. Make sure that you protect your code if it's a source code for copyright. And then having done that, then go on and think through how many other monetization services that you will do.
Yeah. Myra, please, 2 minutes.
I will try. So, of course, as much as I've been on radio for years, I tend to also get nervous, and I forgot to introduce myself. So if you'll allow me to introduce myself quickly. Myra Maloba. I am the managing director and founder of Radio. And this is under the flagship of, or rather the ownership of Brand Name Solutions Limited. One of my other babies is called Kidi Karaoke. So everything we do, basically with the concepts we come up with and the space that we're in, because we're currently on at Baricho Road, where Homeboys used to be. So everything we do is basically surrounded around marketing and leveraging our know-how to be able to get into the space where we're able to do B2B, even if it's not for ourselves, even if we're connecting other people, brands with other brands. It also helps us in growing our networks and of course, showing our credibility. When it comes to artists, and I think anybody who's here, everybody's always like, show me the money, where's the money, right? We are always looking for where the money is, not only just artists. And of course, for artists, to be very honest, we still have a long way to go. Funny enough, this morning before we came here, we actually met with a group who are a circle for creatives. And the creative economy is constantly being talked about this year. But then I think for a lot of financial institutions, it's how do we, and I think you can correct me, how do we monetize or how do we use IP as collateral? How do we use songs, compositions, and artwork as collateral? A lot of institutions, they know that this is an economy that is something that has there's money, the creative economy. But how do we trust some Sani who, for some who have made the mistake of getting money, they go and blow it in the next club, or blow it on the next car? So I think for now, based on your question, it's first of all you as yourself, because I love what you're doing, the initiative you're trying to push, and it's not the first time that it's happening. You're not reinventing the wheel. It's to make noise, and don't do it alone. The pot is too big. Don't stand in the space where you can stand with others, and make sure the Britams, the KCBs, the whoever's are not hearing you, and you're not loud enough. That's why we even have this platform. Don't be afraid to approach Icon Radio or anybody else thinking that we won't open the door for you. It's because you're not coming to us that we're not opening the door for you. You have to look for us to know who you are. So stand in your space and stand in it proudly. Also, equip yourself with knowledge. You can never be too old to gain knowledge. And that's why I love our partnership with AFTI. Because not only are you gaining knowledge, you're also gaining your credibility. You're getting that certificate to show that I am not only knowledgeable in my music, in my craft, but also I've taken the time to invest in myself. I think that's what even we mean when we're talking about scaling up in yourself. Put money into yourself, even if you don't have right now. I think there are so many institutions that have, what are they called? They have payment plans. Invest in yourself. Don't think it's impossible. How we started Icon Radio was not because we had the cameras and we have the microphones that we had now. We started with a computer desk. If you look at our past setup, it's because we just had we had people who believed in us, but also we believed in ourselves to be able to start. With Kiddie Karaoke, when I started in the karaoke business, I just had, what are they called, DVD. Those old DVD things that you can put in a flash disk. And you're over there struggling, putting in numbers. But we started with that. So for me, for any artist, yeah, we might not have the answers now, but my solution is always to start. Do not wait for somebody to come and start it for you. Have that self-initiative, have that self-drive. And believe you me, when you make that noise, they make the noise for you.
When you were talking about a DVD, I was looking at some of the faces in the room. They can't relate. When you were talking about a DVD, I was looking at some of the faces in the room. They can't relate. You know, they are wondering, what gadget is this? What magic is this that you are tinkering with? Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for this fantastic panel. And they are telling us we can monetize our cash. I would like all those who are standing to please be seated. We are coming to the close of the ceremony. We have the last closing discussion, and he's requested for, the panelists, you've been requested to come back up by Maggie from Britam. Patrick, Mr. Kimani, you've been requested to come back up. Who is missing? Yes, Kipkembo is there. So for those who are standing and at the back, please kindly take your seats so that we can close together. And those at the back, please move to the seats in front. I kindly request you. And thank you so much for having been an amazing audience. We touched a high of almost 900, and we trended on Twitter. So Lois and Maggie, Go ahead, go ahead. And as they are handing over the gifts, may I have Annette coming right next to me? Annette and Wycliffe, come right next to me. Here, 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 here. You only have 3 minutes each to wow us. Thank you very much. The best for last. Thank you, Lois. So, Wycliffe, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. So after talking the whole day about startups, definitely at the end of the day, there are two things which you cannot avoid. One of them is paying taxes. The next one is death. Those are the two things you will not avoid. So my name is CPA Wycliffe Manono Nyaosi. I work at RWK Africa. My boss was here. She was doing presentation today morning. We have a solution for you. No matter how small the business is, we will start from somewhere so that we may be able to avoid taxes. At the same time, we had my accurate books. I know for the startups, you can also visit us. We are at the booth there so that we may be able to assist you on the same. Kindly, you can take my number for those people who have issues dealing with tax, audit, bookkeeping. You'll always, I'm always a call away. You can reach up to me. So my number is 0722 0722 792 763. You might be having a case dealing with KRA. Instead of you going there, just call us and we'll be able to assist you. God bless you.
A round of applause for Mr. Wycliffe. He said, if you have an issue with KRA, look for him. Wycliffe, I might just talk to you. You've told us to take the offer. Annette? Good. And as Annette is getting her presentation ready, allow me to just ask. Bossy, just stand. I'm not asking you to speak. I'll speak on your behalf. Alan is the founder of Cube Innovation all the way from North Rift. He came here specifically to support Eugene and the Thai event team and the rest of the ecosystem. He's building the ecosystem in Eldoret. One of the very most interesting thing about Cube Innovation is that they are teaching kids as young as 12 and 10 how to code, how to do robotics, and we agreed with him that he's going countrywide. We are looking forward to that. And then please follow them on their social media spaces. They run an app called Solby. And I come from Western, so I can't say Solby. I always say Solby. But Solby, it's a sales app. It helps you manage your sales from start to finish. Annette, are we ready? Good.
Hello. Hi. All the gentlemen in the house, ahu. Ahu. All the ladies in the house, cha. Cha. I think the ladies are more than the men. So my name is Annette. I represent the Village Market Recreation. Recreation is all about fun. We've been sitting the whole day. We've been listening to a lot of information. At this point, I don't know if I'm using my internal confidence or external. But yes, that was quite a lovely, lovely presentation from Mr. Walubango. So we are here just to show you how we are going to plug you to fun. So let's take a few minutes just to look at this video.